Have you ever felt trapped by an emotional bond that you just can't break? As if your peace of mind is chained to someone else. Today, we're going to explore the secrets of Stoicism that can free your mind. What would Marcus Aurelius do in his place? Or rather, what can you do now to free yourself? Disconnecting emotionally from someone is not about coldness or indifference, but about regaining control. The Stoics teach us that our serenity depends on focusing on what is within our control. In this video, you will learn 6 Stoic lessons for freeing yourself emotionally, living with temperance, and finding true resilience. 1. Accept the nature of things. Life is a constant flux, an uninterrupted dance of changes that we are not always prepared to accept. When we try to stop the natural movement of things, we find ourselves in a futile struggle, like trying to hold water with our hands. There is an austere beauty in accepting that which we cannot control, a quiet harmony in recognizing that some things simply are as they are. From this perspective, pain becomes a harsh but fair teacher. Imagine a river that runs its course without hesitation, indifferent to the rocks and curves it encounters. You, at the edge of this river, can try to grab the passing leaves, but they inevitably slip between your fingers. It is at this moment that true wisdom emerges, realizing that it is not necessary to capture each leaf, but simply to observe its course. So are emotions and bonds. Things go their way regardless of our desires or intentions. A Stoic understands that acceptance is not synonymous with passivity or resignation, but an act of courage. Acceptance is actually a silent cry against despair, a recognition that the world takes its course. And there is no shame in following our own path, even if it is different from what we expected. This understanding allows us to navigate life with a lighter mind, without the weight of unrealistic expectations. There is a certain melancholy charm in embracing the nature of things, not as someone who gives in to apathy, but as someone who dances to the inevitable rhythm of existence. For many, this acceptance is a painful process. The human mind, eternally restless, resists giving up its illusions of control. However, true freedom is born in this moment of surrender. When we stop fighting what is inevitable, we discover a serenity that previously eluded us. However, the act of accepting should not be confused with coldness or indifference. It is a state of full presence, where we are able to feel deeply, but without letting ourselves be consumed by emotions. This is the subtle but crucial difference between being overcome by a storm and watching it pass from the comfort of a safe shelter. Stoicism, with its relentless logic and profound humanity, invites us to this transformation. Acceptance is not the end of the road, but the beginning of a new journey. A journey where the shackles of expectations are broken and the previously restless mind finds rest. 2. Control what is in your power. The art of living is also the art of understanding the limits of our power. We often lose ourselves in battles that don't belong to us, trying to control the uncontrollable, shape the unmoldable. Stoic wisdom calls us to focus our energies on what is in fact within our jurisdiction, our own actions, our thoughts, our perspective on the world. Consider the story of Lucia, a young artist. When her partner decided to walk away, Lucia found herself adrift, trapped in a maze of confusing emotions. She spent days, weeks, trying to understand, trying to change the heart of someone who was already somewhere else. However, in a moment of clarity, she realized that the control she sought so much was not outside her, but within. Lucia turned her attention to art, and every stroke on her canvas became a reflection of her soul, a testament to her ability to create beauty from pain. This is the essence of Stoic control, knowing how to distinguish between what is ours and what is not. Trying to manipulate other people's feelings is like trying to command the winds, an exercise in futility that only leads to frustration. However, from the moment we accept this truth, a world of possibilities opens up. we can redirect our energy towards something that really makes a difference, something that strengthens us. Inner control is a silent but transformative power. It is not necessary to raise your voice or make big gestures to demonstrate this. It manifests itself in everyday choices, in the way we react to adversity, in the way we treat those around us. It is a type of strength that does not need external validation, as its origin is purely internal. Ultimately, recognizing what is within our power is an act of self-love. It's choosing not to be a slave to circumstances, but rather the author of our own narrative. When we understand that we don't need to win every battle, but only those that really matter, life takes on a new perspective. Lucia, on her journey, not only found peace, but also a renewed purpose. His art became more vibrant, more authentic. And so she learned that when we embrace what we can control, we find not only freedom, but also a path to true fulfillment. 3. Practice mental distance. There is something profoundly transformative about practicing mental distance. It is a type of inner alchemy where the most overwhelming emotions are transmuted into contemplative tranquility. However, this practice requires an almost artistic ability to observe without getting involved, to witness the ups and downs of existence as if we were watching a film whose twists, however exciting, do not have the power to throw us off our balance. Imagine being in a vast field, under a restless sky. Dark clouds gather, thunder echoes in the distance, but you stand firm, feeling the wind touch your face. This is how the mind behaves when it learns to keep its distance. It recognizes the storm without being swallowed by it. It's not that emotions disappear. They are still there, but as temporary visitors, not as owners of the space. This practice reminds us of Epictetus' advice, which said, "It is not events that disturb us, but the way we interpret them." We are prone to getting lost in our own narratives, turning small setbacks into epic tragedies, as if we were characters in a never-ending drama. However, when we take on the role of observer, these same narratives begin to lose their hold on us. Take, for example, the story of Anna, a teacher who faces the challenges of a troubled work environment every day. Every word spoken, every disapproving look seemed to penetrate directly into his soul, corroding his peace. However, by adopting the practice of mental distance, Anna learned to see these interactions in a new light. They stopped being open wounds and became scenes from a play in which she no longer needed to act reactively. Anna realized that she could watch these moments like someone watching. The movement of leaves in the wind, a natural spectacle, but one that does not require her interference. There is an incomparable freedom in this distance. It allows us to realize that most of the worries we carry are, in fact, reflections of an erroneous interpretation of reality. When we step away, even for a brief moment, we are able to assess the true weight of situations, often discovering that they are much lighter than we imagined. However, this is not a denial of emotions, but an invitation to live them wisely. Instead of fighting sadness or anger, we observe its contours, its textures, as if we were studying a complex work of art. Over time, this observation teaches us that no emotion is permanent, that everything invariably passes. Practicing mental distance also helps us recognize the duality of existence. For every moment of pain, there is an instant of relief. For every loss, a new beginning. This balance, so often ignored, becomes evident when we stop identifying so deeply with our experiences. Life, at its core, is a game of contrasts, and distance allows us to appreciate both sides without being overwhelmed by either. Thus, mental distance becomes a powerful tool for personal growth. It not only helps us deal with difficult situations, but also prepares us to face future challenges with more resilience. After all, a mind that has learned to observe without being dragged by its currents is a mind that has found its true strength. This practice, although simple in theory, requires constant effort. It is necessary to cultivate a state of presence, careful attention to what happens inside and outside us. But once incorporated, it transforms our relationship with the world. We discover that we can inhabit a space of stillness even when everything around us seems to be in chaos. Ultimately, the practice of mental distance is a path to true freedom. Not the freedom to avoid life's challenges, but the freedom to face them without losing our essence. It is a reminder that no matter how turbulent the journey, we can always find a point of peace, a refuge within ourselves where serenity reigns supreme. 4. Recognize the temporality of everything. Temporality is the essence of the universe. Everything that surrounds us, from the grandest mountains to the most ephemeral flowers, exists only for an instant in cosmic terms. This awareness, when embraced, can be both terrifying and liberating. There is a strange melancholy in realizing that all the things we love, as well as those that cause us anguish, are doomed to disappear. But paradoxically, it is in this recognition that true freedom lies. Time, with its relentless march, never stops to give us respite. It's like a silent river, carrying with it the memories and moments we think we possess. However, the key to living fully is not in trying to stem this flow, but in learning to navigate with it. Marcus Aurelius, in his serene wisdom, wrote, "Soon you will have forgotten everything. Soon everyone will have forgotten about you." These words, far from being gloomy, invite us to embrace the fleetingness of life with a light spirit. There is something deeply poetic about witnessing the constant cycle of beginnings and endings. The sun rises and sets, the seasons change, and even the greatest empires that ever existed are now just dust in the wind. This universal impermanence is what makes each moment uniquely precious. Were it not for the certainty of its transience, beauty would lose its intensity and human bonds their depth. Think of a date by the sea, where the waves gently lick the sand beneath your feet. Each wave that approaches is unique, unrepeatable. No matter how hard you try to capture the moment, it inevitably slips away. However, it is precisely this fleeting nature that makes it unforgettable. This is how it is with everything in our existence, and the sooner we accept this truth, the more we will be able to live with serenity. Recognizing the temporality of things does not mean surrendering to pessimism. On the contrary, it is an invitation to live with more presence, valuing every detail that makes up our experience. When we understand that nothing lasts forever, even the most painful situations lose some of their weight. After all, just as storms come and go, so do our difficulties find their end. However, this understanding does not come without effort. We are often tempted to cling to what is familiar to us, be it a person, a phase, or an emotion. The idea of losing what we love awakens in us an almost irresistible desire to hold on tight, as if that could stop the inevitable. But Stoicism teaches us that it is precisely by letting go of our bonds that we find peace. Temporality, far from being a curse, is one of life's greatest gifts. She reminds us that now is all we have. When we see the world through this lens, we begin to notice the beauty in the little things, the sunshine after the rain, the unexpected laughter of a child, the warmth of a hug. These moments, no matter how simple they are, become the pillars of a life well lived. Furthermore, accepting impermanence helps us cultivate deep gratitude. Each encounter, each experience is a unique opportunity that will never be repeated in the same way. And by embracing this reality, we become more open to the inevitable changes that life presents to us. We learn to value not only moments of joy, but also moments of sadness, as both are part of the rich and complex tapestry of existence. Ultimately, temporality challenges us to reevaluate our priorities. What really matters in a world where everything is temporary? This question, although disconcerting, leads us to a more authentic life, guided by values that stand the test of time. In the end, It's not about how much time we have, but about how we choose to live it. And in that choice lies true wisdom. 5. Meditate on death. Thinking about death is an exercise that many avoid, as if the simple act of reflecting on the end could invoke it. However, the Stoics teach us that death should not be viewed with fear, but rather as a silent, ever-present companion that reminds us of the preciousness of each moment. When we learn to meditate on death, it is not death that scares us, but the idea of living a meaningless life, wasting the moments given to us. Every morning that wakes us up is a subtle reminder that time is running out. Although this truth may seem dark, it contains an undeniable beauty. Knowing that our journey is finite compels us to act with more intention, speak more sincerely, and love more deeply. Marcus Aurelius, in his quiet wisdom, wrote, "You can leave life now. Let it determine what you do, say, and think." These are words that echo as a call to conscience, a call to live with purpose. For the Stoics, meditating on death is not a morbid exercise, but a portal to freedom. By facing the inevitability of the end, we are freed from the small anxieties that often consume our spirit. Everyday worries, resentments, and even deepest fears begin to seem insignificant when compared to the vastness of eternity. It is in this space of reflection that we find the courage to let go of what doesn't matter and fully embrace what really has value. Imagine Anna, a doctor who spends her days saving lives, but when she returns home, she's faced with the crushing silence of her own mortality. She begins to meditate on death, not as an enemy, but as an ally. Every patient she loses is a reminder that her own existence is temporary, but this awareness does not paralyze her. On the contrary, she finds a renewed sense of purpose in her work and begins to appreciate the little moments that previously went unnoticed. Meditating on death teaches us to cultivate a unique form of gratitude. Instead of fearing what's next, we learn to celebrate what we have now. Every smile, every conversation, every sunrise becomes a rare gift, something that should not be taken for granted. This perspective transforms the way we experience the world, making us more attentive and more alive in each moment. There is, however, an intriguing paradox in meditating on death. The more we contemplate it, the more we learn about life. Death shows us that there is no time to waste on superficialities, that our choices must be guided by values that transcend the ephemeral. When we remember our finitude, conflicts seem less urgent, offenses less painful, and failures less definitive. Life, with all its imperfections, reveals itself in its fullness. This Stoic practice also prepares us to accept the inevitable with equanimity. It's not easy to imagine the moment when we will take our last breath, but in doing so we begin to lose the fear that often paralyzes us. Death, we realize, is not the end of everything, but the closing of a cycle, a transition that gives meaning to what came before. She challenges us to live in such a way that when the time comes, we can look back without regrets. Ultimately, meditating on death helps us leave a legacy that resonates beyond our time. It's not about seeking immortality, but about living in a way that positively impacts those around us. Every act of kindness, every gesture of compassion becomes a way of perpetuating life even after we are gone. And so, by reconciling ourselves with death, we learn to live more fully, more consciously, more humanly. 6. Replace bonds with virtues. When a bond is broken, whatever it may be, a void remains that cries out for filling. Many rush to look for replacements, trying to reconnect or find new connections to alleviate the absence. However, the Stoics show us a deeper alternative, replacing these bonds with virtues. Instead of looking outside for what is missing, we turn our gaze inward to the values that can sustain our existence in a lasting and meaningful way. Virtue is an anchor amidst the storms of life. While human bonds are often fragile and changeable, virtues are like rocks, that remain firm regardless of the tides. When we place courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom at the center of our experience, we create an unshakable foundation. These values do not depend on external circumstances or the approval of others. They flourish within us, fueled by our desire to grow and evolve. Consider John, a man who spent much of his life seeking validation in his relationships. Each new friendship or romance was, for him, an attempt to fill emotional gaps. However, over time, Joan realized that these bonds were temporary and often filled with unrealistic expectations. It was then that he began to cultivate virtues. Courage helped him face his fears. Temperance brought balance to his passions, justice guided him in his interactions, and wisdom led him to a deeper understanding of himself. When we exchange the search for bonds for the practice of virtues, something extraordinary happens. We begin to live with more integrity, as our actions are no longer motivated by the desire to please or avoid loneliness. Instead, they are guided by solid principles that give us dignity and autonomy. Every choice we make becomes an opportunity to express who we really are, not who we think others expect us to be. Furthermore, virtues have the power to transform our relationship with the world. By adopting compassion, for example, we stop seeing others as threats or obstacles and begin to see them as companions on the journey. Patience allows us to face adversity with serenity, while humility teaches us to value each lesson, no matter how difficult it may be. These qualities, when cultivated, not only strengthen us, but also enrich our connections, making them more authentic and meaningful. The transition from bonds to virtues is not, however, a path free of challenges. Attachment to relationships can be so deep that the idea of replacing them with abstract values seems almost impossible. However, it is important to remember that virtues are not cold or distant. They are living expressions of our humanity, manifested in concrete, everyday acts. It is through them that we find a new form of belonging, no longer based on emotional dependence, but on universal interconnection. Throughout this process, we realize that virtues not only fill the void left by broken bonds, but also prepare us to better deal with future losses. A person who relies on resilience does not break in the face of adversity. A soul guided by hope does not succumb to despair. Virtues, unlike ephemeral bonds, remain faithful companions, offering support and guidance at each stage of life. This replacement also brings a deep sense of freedom. No longer tied to the expectations and whims of others, we are able to follow an authentic path where our choices reflect our most intimate values. This is the kind of freedom that the Stoics advocate. A freedom that does not depend on external circumstances, but on an unwavering commitment to what is right and virtuous. Finally, by cultivating virtues, we transform not only our own lives, but also the world around us. Every act of kindness, every gesture of courage reverberates, creating ripples that inspire and uplift others. Thus, even when bonds are broken, we remain connected to something greater, something that transcends the ephemeral and brings us closer to what is most noble in our nature. And it is in this space of inner connection that we find the true meaning of existence. If you liked this video and want to learn more about how Stoicism can transform your life, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give a like, and activate the bell to receive more philosophical lessons. And of course, leave in the comments which lesson resonated most with you. Until the next video, selected tags: philosophy, Stoicism, Marco Aurelio Stoicism, wisdom, serenity, resilience, reflection, happiness, personal growth. Have you ever felt emotionally tied to someone? Like peace of mind is out of reach? In this video, we explore how Stoicism can help you emotionally disconnect in a healthy way, with practical lessons based on great thinkers, such as Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus. You will learn to replace bonds with virtues and find inner strength. Discover how to accept the temporality of everything, meditate on death, and cultivate resilience for a more balanced and fulfilling life. This is your guide to practicing serenity amid chaos and living more wisely. Watch now and transform the way you look at relationships and emotions. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and activate the bell for more content about Stoic philosophy, personal growth, and mental health. Topics covered: what is Stoicism and how to apply it in everyday life, how to emotionally disconnect from someone, replace bonds with virtues, courage, temperance, wisdom, the practice of Stoic meditation to deal with loss and letting go, reflections on temporality and mortality, tags, philosophy, Stoicism, philosophy, what is Stoicism, Marco Aurelio Stoicism, wisdom, serenity, life lesson, personal growth, happiness, resilience, reflection, Stoic philosophy, mental health, Epictetus, Seneca, meditation, personal development, Stoicism, discipline, Stoicism.